Hello, and welcome to the Outdoorsy Diva podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, the Outdoorsy Diva. Thanks for joining. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Outdoorsy Diva podcast. I am continuing to highlight really awesome, dynamic people in the outdoor space, and I am pleased to bring to you Black Girls Trekking. We are here with Tiffany, Tharpe, and Michelle Race. Ladies, go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell people what Black Girls Trekking is and where you're located.
All right. Well, thanks for having us, Lauren. It's super great to be talking with you today. My name is Michelle. I'm one of the co-founders of Black Girls Trekkin.
And I'm Tiffany. I'm the other co-founder of Black Girls Trekkin. We got started in 2017 and we're based in Los Angeles, California.
Awesome. So, okay, now you have to paint the picture for people. What does Black Girls Trekking do?
Well, we're an outdoor recreation group, like Tiffany said, we're based in Los Angeles, California for now, hopefully expanding in the future. And basically what we do is that we get women of color and our allies into the outdoors. And so most of our events are centered around hiking. We also do things like kayaking and rock climbing. Basically anything that can take place in the outdoors, we'll do it.
That's amazing. And it's so great to find like-minded and like-spirited people. I feel like when I started this almost 6 years ago, I felt like I was the only one. And now we're like everywhere and it's beautiful to see. So tell me a little bit about how Black Girls Trekking got started.
Well, it started, like Tiffany said, back in 2017. But before it was a hiking group, it was just on Instagram. And it was basically because Tiffany was going out, she was doing the 52 hike challenge, which is basically where you just go and do 52 hikes in a year. And while she was out there, she was realizing like there weren't a lot of people of color, not a lot of Black women out in the trails. And so she started the Instagram just to like show representation of herself and her friends out there. And Tiffany and I have known each other since high school. So while she was doing that, I was in college and we kind of stayed in contact. And so when I came back to LA, she was like, hey, I've started this Instagram and people are asking if we can, or if I can do hikes in person, if I can lead hikes, will you do this with me? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, of course I want to do this because in school, I went to school for marine biology. And was realizing that I was the only Black person in my major, kind of the only person doing that. And so I felt alone in the outdoor space as well. So when she was like, I'm doing this thing to get Black people in the outdoors, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. So that's kind of how we got started.
I love that. And I love how, social media has allowed us to be seen in this space, right? And allow us to find each other, to look like each other. And so that we can have that comfort because it sucks to feel like you're the only one. And then to start it and people want to join you, that's beautiful. So how did you even, and I want to hear from both of you. So I guess I'll say, Michelle, we can hear yours first. And then from you, Tiffany, I want to know your nature origin story. Like what sparked your love of nature?
My nature origin story. I feel like most kids are curious about nature anyway. And so when I think back to my really early experiences with nature, it was just like me in the backyard playing with a dog or like following ant trails and things like that, which I think is what sparked my curiosity to think about nature and science, which eventually led me to studying marine biology. So all of my earliest nature experiences are just being really curious about like, what is this thing? Why is it here? What is it doing? And then I didn't have, my family wasn't the kind of family that went out camping all the time. But what my parents were really great about was encouraging me to find experiences. And so when I told them I was interested in doing things like Girl Scouts, that was really my introduction into the outdoors. And so I got to have a lot of my first and earliest camping and hiking experiences with Girl Scouts. And then like I kind of just stopped up until Tiffany picked up the group in 2017. I didn't have a whole lot of opportunities or friends to go outdoors with. So this group was kind of my reintroduction into the outdoors as well.
I love that. I love how that's yours is an original origin story. You're really the first person that has explained it that way, where it was really kind of your curiosity about the world and from a scientific perspective that kind of piqued your interest. And so, Michelle, what about you? What is your nature origin story?
Oh, that was Michelle that was talking.
Oh, sorry. Tiffany, what is your nature origin story?
So mine is kind of the opposite of Michelle's. So I started off as a kid, like, I was curious, wanting to go outside, wanting to explore. However, my family was kind of anti all of that. So me like asking if we could go hiking and camping, they were like, nah, like we don't do that. Like we don't do that stuff. So kind of originally I was just watching like Animal Planet. So I was really like fond of the Crocodile Hunter, Jeff Corwin. I used to like love them. And that kind of sparked my interest in the animal aspect of nature. And so I like started working with dogs. Now I work at a vet. And then, so for me personally, I kind of just set out on my own. It was kind of a mental thing for me. I went through a pretty bad breakup like 5 or 6 years ago. So I kind of just started going outdoors as a way to reflect and heal from that happened to me. So for me, it was just kind of reconnecting with nature and the outdoors. And it was kind of really just meditative for me and spiritually just kind of woke me up to all the things that the outdoors has to offer, because it's a lot bigger than just us,
Right.
So that's kind of how I started getting out there.
And we actually share that really in common. My first solo international trip and solo hike was also due to a breakup, due to really tumultuous long-term relationship. And I was basically like, I just need to reset. And it helped me so much to have that time, that God time, and just find that nature could be therapeutic. That was the first time I realized that. So I just think that's really cool how a lot of us have, really similar stories in what we get out of nature, and how we get started. So what do you love the most about hiking? Like, why hiking?
For me, there's kind of a couple things, but for me, the major thing. So when I first started hiking, like Michelle said, I was hiking on my own, kind of. I would kind of drag friends to go with me, but they were mostly just going in support for me. But I just like found that there were things that I didn't know that I could do. Like I never thought that I could climb to the top of a mountain, and I was out there like pushing myself to climb peaks and like, I just realized that, wow, my body can do these things. And it was just kind of still an eye opening, because I'm still going out there and I'm still like surprised anytime I climb a mountain that I'm like, oh, I did this. Like,
Right? Right. I totally get that. It's like nature will give you the biggest challenge, but it's such a reward, like when you can do that.
yeah, just like being at the top and just seeing the world around you. Like, it's just, I don't know, that feeling that you get, like, it's just a high for me.
That's really cool. So what's one of your most memorable hikes?
You want to tackle this one, Michelle, or?
Yeah. Well, for me, my most memorable hike with the group was the first peak that we did. So we, as the group, did the 6 peak challenge. And the first one we did was Mount Wilson. And for me, that one is the most memorable for so many reasons. One, because going into it, when I tell you I did not think I was going to make it to the top, We were supposed to be like leading the hike, and I was like, if anyone wants to turn around, I'll go back with you. Like, I was not prepared to go all the way to the top. And so kind of going that journey for me from the bottom all the way to the top, to the peak, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I did complain, but like getting to the top, I really felt proud of myself in a way that I hadn't before, in a way that I hadn't really pushed my body to do that before. Because when we're talking about why we love hiking, I like it because it can be a slow activity. Like if you want to take a break and sit next to a tree or a stream, you can. So for me, that hike was memorable, one, for the personal aspect, and two, because it was kind of the first big peak we tackled as a group. And I think that it really bonded a lot of the people that did that experience with us. So yeah, that's my most memorable one.
That's really, really, I think the ones that you challenge yourself and you think I might don't make it, those are definitely the ones that that stick out for you. So why do you think we see such a lack of diversity, or do you feel that there really is a lack of diversity when it comes to the outdoor recreation culture?
Um,
Oh,
oh, go, no, go, you can go for it, Tiffany.
I was just saying, or I was gonna say, so for me, I think that we're definitely out there. Like, there definitely is a lot of like Black people and people of color out on the trails, out doing these outdoor activities. It's just not necessarily seen as much. And I think nowadays they are kind of starting to explore that more. They still do have a long ways to go, but definitely, like, from when I was a kid to now, it has changed. But I think that when I was a kid, there were still a lot of people that were that looked like me, that were getting outdoors and doing this stuff. It just wasn't broadcast or seen, is the thing. So I think nowadays the goal is just getting us like seen and heard, and our voices getting heard in the outdoors.
And what do you think that this culture, specifically like with branding and marketing, what can the outdoor industry do better to help with that, to help that representation is shown?
Well, I think kind of like Tiffany was saying, things are getting better in terms of representation in the media. I think that brands are kind of waking up to this idea that they need to make sure that a diverse population is shown in media and print, which is great. And I think that's kind of the first step. What I'd like to see moving forward, though, is that that's not just happening in front of the camera, but it's happening behind the camera as well. And so I think when we're trying to figure out ways to make the outdoor industry more diverse, it needs to be happening in the decision-making rooms, in the meetings, you know, in leadership and all of those things. So hopefully moving forward, that's what we start to see. So not only just like on social media, but people that are empowered to make decisions.
I 100% agree with that. Uh, do you see any barriers to entry or any barriers to convincing other Black women to go on a hike with you or come on a hike with you, or things you've had to kind of help to overcome to get people to see like, hey, this is something you should try?
So I think, because when I first started hiking, I think the way when you research trails and stuff, it can be misleading, because a lot of people, when you're starting out hiking, you don't really know what like elevation gain is or distance. So a lot of people might see like a hike that says 500 feet of elevation gain, and I know when I first started out, I thought that was like easy, but and a lot of people that do hike, they think like 500 feet of elevation gain, oh, that's nothing. But it's different. Like, all people are different, all bodies are different. Like 500 feet of elevation gain for one person could be like really tough for another person. 2 miles for one person could be really, really hard for another person. So I think for us, the biggest thing we've tried to do is we try to go at everyone's pace. Like, we have someone in the front leading the hike, we have someone in the middle, and we have someone in the back. And basically, we go as a group. We don't try to run up the mountain or run up the trail. We stay together as a group. We take as many breaks as we need to, and we advertise that. Like, when we go on our hikes, we're going with the group's intentions in mind. We want to make sure everyone has a good time, because we know that 2 miles for someone isn't going to be the same for another person. So we just try to make people feel comfortable when they're coming on their hikes. We try to make sure everyone's hydrated. We check in on people, make sure that they're having a good time. And like Michelle said, like, if we have to, we will turn around, because the mountain's always going to be there. We can always go back. We can always try again. And it's not going to be for everyone. So we just try to make sure that everyone's comfortable and safe, basically, when we go out.
That's awesome that you do that. I I did my first actual group travel trip that was part outdoorsy and part diva, with mountains and mimosas. And one of the activities, it was a waterfall chase. And so I knew for some of the people this was going to be a new thing to them. So I carefully chose, trails and research trails that wouldn't be too strenuous, and it was going to be cold. So I didn't want people to feel like this is going to be too much for me. And I had to kind of give the option, like, if you feel like it might be too much, you can definitely opt out. You don't have to, but this is one of the major activities of the trip. I want you to at least try. But thankfully, everyone, they were skeptical, because they saw it and they were like, 6 miles total, but not straight through. It was like a couple of different loops. And I'm like, we'll have breaks. We're going to stop. We're at waterfalls. So we're going to sit and listen and take pictures. Like, trust me, you'll be fine. But
yeah,
that fear factor and people feeling like they can do it is a real thing. I still experience it, even especially places with elevation, because I live in flatland. I'm in Florida. But when I travel and I go places with elevation, I'm always concerned about that, because I have asthma. And so it's something I have to consider and know that I got to pace myself. I'm going to be the slow poke, and that's okay. So have you experienced any overt or covert racism when you've been in nature or hiking?
Yes, definitely. As a group, and my own personal experience I have. So as a group, so we create this safe space for Black women and girls to feel comfortable. But there are times when we're on the trails where it's kind of more, they're microaggressions, but they're still, like, we could do without them. So we'll have people, almost always white people, who are, they'll say, like, oh, like, this is a pretty big family, or this is a pretty big gang, or oh, I guess I can't join this group because I'm white. It'll be stuff like that they say out on the trails, which we're just, we're in our zone, so we don't react negatively to it. We kind of just, smile and laugh it off and keep pushing. We did have, when we were climbing, I can't remember, Strawberry Peak, someone was like, oh, you guys know you still have a long way to go, like, as if they were doubting our ability to make it up the mountain, which is kind of irritating. So we get those, like, microaggressions on the trail as a group. And then for me personally, just as a Black woman, my fiance is white. So when we travel, like, far, like when we go to, like, Death Valley, or when we went to Arizona, we do get the stares from people, which is just lovely. So yeah,
Right.
we have had to deal with that on the trails.
And what about you?
Yeah, a lot of the same of what Tiffany was saying, a lot of microaggressions. And I think for me, I've done a little bit of hiking outside of LA. And what's nice about LA is that it is a little bit of a bubble, so it's a little bit more diverse. And so a lot of, when I feel uncomfortable, are the stares, the microaggressions, the, like, I guess supposed to be well-meaning, like, oh, are those the right shoes, or like those kinds of comments, or people just being genuinely surprised that I'm into this kind of activity. So it's kind of those more insidious comments that just kind of sneak in. You're like, was that is that because I'm Black? Am I supposed to be here? So those kind of feelings that make it uncomfortable to be in a place. Um, but I think for sure, if we were to do more hiking outside of Los Angeles, there'd be bigger issues.
And I think that's a shared experience many of us have, being Black in these spaces. We get a lot of that tone of surprise or the microaggressions or the unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
But I'm not so much of the covert or violent responses or anything like that. Though there have been some. I do know some people who have had some. I've seen articles of people who have, unfortunately, and it's definitely something we just have to think about. It's the place we are right now in society. You have a certain group of people who will definitely feel more emboldened, I feel, to be hateful. So it's something you're mindful of because you just don't know who you will encounter. So how do you encourage people to push past that? People who may have a fear of encountering something like that, or who may feel uncomfortable or like we don't belong.
I mean, I think that is kind of one of the purposes of why we created Black Girls Trekkin. I know for me, I don't always feel comfortable in the outdoors by myself. And that's just the reality of what it is. Even as a founder of this group, there are still moments when I feel like it's not a space for me. And so I think the purpose of Black Girls Trekkin is to bring people together, to make them feel safe, to give them positive experiences. And hopefully that creates a braver person, right? Like you can leave that experience, have the knowledge that there are people that do support you, like a community that's standing behind you and saying you do belong here. If something happens to you, you can come back into this space and have some shared experience with those people that look like you. Um, so yeah, I would just say to people as a reminder that if you're out there and you're feeling like you don't belong, remember that there are people that are supporting you, even if they're not with you in that moment.
That's beautiful. And those are definitely encouraging words. And we persevere. And I'm thankful for women like you, in this space who are, pushing this forward and normalizing it really for people so that we don't feel like there's anything we can't do.
And now, a word from our sponsors. If you're a traveler, then you already know Moon Travel Guides is the go-to publisher for in-depth guides to the national parks. Now with the newly released Moon USA National Parks, you can find info on all 62 parks in the US packaged into one gorgeous book. Whether you're planning a trip of your own or looking for the perfect gift, this guide is full of expert advice, tips for avoiding crowds, hiking trails, and more. Explore America's best idea with Moon USA National Park. And now back to the podcast.
Okay, so switching gears. My blog is actually, the full name is Misadventures of an Outdoorsy Diva. And that's because inevitably something goes wrong, and I do it anyway. And so I want people to see me and feel like, oh, well, if she can do this and screw that up, but still go forward with it, then I'd still be willing to try. I just want to help to remove that barrier of fear, that people have. So I'd like both of you to share with me one of your misadventures, at some point for any of your outdoor activities. Tiffany, we can start with you.
Well, there was one time, I was just, like I said, when I first got into hiking, I would kind of just go for it, I don't know if All Trails was around quite yet, or if it was, I didn't know about it, but I would just kind of look up a trail, not really look at how long it was or the elevation, and I would just go. So there was a time where I took my friends to Yosemite. None of us had gone before, and I decided to do the Mist Trail, which, if you guys don't know, the Mist Trail, it takes you first to the a footbridge of Vernal Falls, and then you climb like 600 so steps to the top. And then after you get to the top of the fall, you climb higher to get to Nevada Fall. So I, for some reason, thought that all of my friends could tackle this trail in the middle of summer after a really rainy, like winter and spring. So the falls were just like powerful. It was definitely misty. So I was like, yeah, we can do this. Two of my friends did not have hiking shoes on. One had sandals on, and a couple of them didn't have enough water. So we just went for it. We were like, we're here. It's Yosemite. It's beautiful. We're going to go. So we got to the footbridge, and then we saw the water was like almost to the bridge. It was really high. Like, it was a high water year in Yosemite. And I was like, okay, this is fine. Like, people are still going up. They're doing this trail. We're going to do this trail. So we started climbing the stairs. And then as we are climbing the stairs, we realized why it's called the mist trail, because everything kind of just like faded into the mist. We lost the trail.
No.
Like, I was like, so I was like, I was seeing people disappear into the mist to keep going on this trail. And like, simultaneously, me and like all 5 of my friends like started freaking out. 2 of my friends turned around and were like, we're not doing this. And they started climbing down these slippery granite stairs. And I was like, oh my God, like someone might die on this trail. But I was like, you know what, let's try to keep going. So the rest of us kept going. And then at some point we just were soaking wet. It was slippery. One of my friends like didn't have the right shoes on. And I was like, this is kind of dangerous. So we're going to turn around. So we turned around, and then we ended up we went back to the bridge, and we just ended up having lunch. And I was like, we can come back next year and do it. But it was kind of, I felt really bad because I was like, I didn't expect the trail to be as, like, I guess I didn't plan for the trail conditions. But I felt really bad for my friends that day, because I was just like, I didn't expect this trail to be as hard as it was.
And lesson learned from that, I'm sure. Did you ever get to
Yeah.
go back and and finish it?
Oh yeah, I've climbed it twice. So I've climbed it twice. But I was a lot more prepared. Had the right amount of water, and then I realized that I think if we had kept going, and that's the funny part, if we had kept going, the trail was going to level out, and then we would have been like on steady ground. But then we turned around like right before that. So we could have just kept going, and then it would have been like maybe like 2-3 more minutes, and we would have been on flat terrain. And I was like, but lesson learned.
And you survived to tell the tale.
I did, yes.
And what about you, Michelle? What is one of your misadventures?
Yeah, I will say, to Tiffany's credit, she is a planner. She's a planner. And so for that to have happened, it always makes me laugh. So I was just laughing over here. And to her credit, none of my misadventures have happened with Black Girls Trekkin, because she will plan everything to a T. Everyone has water. Yes. My misadventure happened in India, actually. So I did my graduate program a couple years back, and as part of the graduate program, we had to take these international trips. And so it's like a 10-day trip, and you're kind of like in the back country doing conservation work. So I went to India with one of my friends for a week early just to travel. And it was during monsoon season. And so we went there. We were like in the desert. It was hot. I was like, it's not monsoon season. Why did they tell me to pack an umbrella, like a raincoat, all this stuff? I don't need this stuff, whatever. So on the last night when my friend was going to fly back and I was going to go start the program with grad school, I was like, can you just take my umbrella and all this stuff? Like, I don't need this. I don't know why I'm carrying it around. And she was like, okay, it's not even raining. So then she left. I started the program for my graduate program. We went into the mountains. When I tell you, it rained nonstop for 10 days, and I didn't have anything. All I had was like this blanket that I kept putting over my head. Basically, they said it was a poncho, but it was just like a cloth blanket. And so I spent 10 days outside just getting drenched.
Oh
And I just was like,
no.
how am I so unprepared to be out here? And everyone was like, they told you to bring an umbrella and a raincoat and a poncho. And I was like, it wasn't raining before. So that's just a
Wow.
lesson. And it is a lesson I took with me. I carry a poncho everywhere now. Anywhere I go, there's a poncho in my backpack.
And girl, what did you do with your hair for 10 days of being
Oh
wet?
God, it was a nightmare because, of course, I went with a protective style. I had faux locks, and it was a good idea when they're dry, but when they are wet and don't dry, they're just heavy and like they weren't dry the full 10 days. When I got back, I took those things out so fast. It was a mess. The whole thing was a mess.
I too am a witness to the faux locks are really not for water activities. I had them in last summer when I went to Jamaica on a press trip, and I had no intention of snorkeling. And I ended up snorkeling, of course. I'm not going to pass up an opportunity to jump in the ocean. Uh, and so I had to pull them all up because I was like, no, I want them down my back for my pictures. I had this image in my head of these amazing IG pictures. Well, we had to
Oh
put
my
those
God.
things up on top of my head to get the snorkel goggles on. And yeah, they were never dry for the remainder of the trip.
Yep.
So I'm with you on that. Thank you for sharing your vulnerabilities with the audience and with the people, because basically, guys, shit happens and you just do it anyway. All right,
Exactly.
so for both of you, Michelle, we'll start with you. What is an outdoor activity that you haven't tried yet, but you'd really like to do?
One that I haven't tried, but I'd really like to do. Oh my gosh, I feel like there are so many. Tiffany's gonna laugh when I say this because she's been trying to get me to do it, but I keep saying I'm too scared. I just one time though, I want to go whitewater rafting.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I know, but I'm so scared, but I feel like just one time.
Can we just go then? Because I've been trying to get you to do this for years. Like,
I'm so scared, but I feel like just once.
oh my God.
I'm with you. That one's on my list too. I'm right there with you, Michelle. I understand, but I want to do it, but I am low-key scared.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see. So now Tiffany's not gonna let this go. It's gonna happen.
Oh no, it's gonna be a BGT event and Michelle will be there.
Well, hopefully y'all will let Floridians in by the time you plan this and I can come too.
Oh, you can definitely come.
When the world opens back up. Okay, now
Yes.
Tiffany, what's yours?
Well, I mean, you already know, like that's been a big goal of mine is I want to go whitewater rafting. And every time I try to go, Michelle's like, I'm not doing that. So I haven't gone yet.
Wow. Okay.
It's like goals. I really, really, really want to get out there and go whitewater rafting.
Awesome. Okay, so it's in the universe now, which means it's gonna happen. It's absolutely gonna happen. And now, so let's go ahead and talk about the dreaded C word. Oh, the Rona. How has COVID-19 impacted your 2020 plans and activities with what Black Girls Trekkin does?
So yeah, we had to put Black Girls Trekkin on hiatus. It is still currently on hiatus. So 2020 was supposed to be, I think it was going to be a big year for us. We were going to start having, we have like 2 new hike leaders. And then we were going to try to start expanding and reaching out, and establishing, we were going to try to have, like one up north, San Diego, like just having a couple more like out there. But it put it on pause. So we haven't reached out to anyone yet to see if we could start getting ambassadors. What else? Oh, we were supposed to do some trips this year that we had to put on pause. We were going to go to Red Rock, Canyon in Vegas, Washington. Yeah, we had some stuff we were gonna be doing, but yeah.
I feel you. And how have you been able to maintain kind of a sense of community during this time? Have you done anything to pivot?
I wish I could say that we have. I've been sending like, I haven't sent one for July yet, but I have been sending our monthly newsletters, just kind of letting everyone know how we're doing, kind of asking that everyone still stay safe and recreate outdoors responsibly if they are outdoors. I did for July, so they're not our normal hikes, but I did put together 3 like wellness hikes for this month. Very, very limited space. I think only like 5 people per hike. But it's basically in light of everything that's going on, just to kind of, it's for Black like wellness and mental health to kind of get us outdoors. And we have a couple people coming to do yoga and like talk about self-love and meditate, and then just kind of remind us that, we matter, we're special. Kind of just touch base with ourselves, make sure that we're all doing okay during this time. So I do have that set up. But yeah,
That's beautiful, and that's really important work. It's important for people, for us especially, to realize in this time, when we're fighting and we're using our voices and we're protesting in whatever manner that we're helping with the movement and to uplift Black Lives Matter, that you still have to take care of you and your mental, and this fight will be there. It ain't going nowhere. So I love that you're doing that and creating that space for people. So what are you most looking forward to 2021?
Well, I feel like I'm still in the spotlight here, but I can finally get married because my wedding got canceled.
Oh no!
Yeah, so I'm like kind of over it because we had planned for like a year and a half. So I'm just waiting for that to happen so it can just be done.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but it'll happen. I know it's going to happen, and hopefully it'll be able to be all that you want it to be. Stupid Rona.
I know.
I know. And she is waiting for her wedding. I got engaged during this whole thing.
Really? Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, Rona is really just an obstacle for everybody right now. But group wise, I mean, that is, I'm still waiting for Tiffany's wedding. I think that's really going to be the highlight. Like, come back. My wedding can wait. Like, she needs this moment. So my highlight, I think, is just getting the group back together, because the upcoming wellness events that we're doing are still limited in size, which is good. And we should be safe, but I'm just looking forward to the time when we can just like welcome everybody back, go on a hike, and just have regular community. So hopefully that happens in 2021.
For sure. Bring back peopling.
Right.
So I'd like you both to leave some final words of encouragement for anyone who might be skeptical about going on their first hike or embarking on their first outdoor experience. And Michelle, we can start with you.
Yeah, I would tell anyone that's maybe a little bit nervous or hesitant about getting out there, is to just take it slow and take it at your pace, because I know, when people hear the word hiking, or, when they think about outdoor adventuring, it brings to mind like doing these big peaks or having to buy expensive gear. But really, like, a hike is just a walk in nature. So, when Tiffany and I first started, we were just wearing our Nikes or whatever shoes we had and just getting out there and going for as far as we could. So just to tell everyone to just take it at your pace, and explore nature the way that you connect to the most.
Beautiful. And Tiffany, you?
And then Michelle's probably going to laugh, but as the like kind of hiker mom in me, I would just make sure that if they are going to start, just make sure that they take a friend with them. Just, to have a little bit of safety, let someone know where they're going or what general area they're going to be in, and make sure that they have water. There are a lot of apps and trails that you can look up online to kind of see, kind of gauge your distance and where you're going to go. So just make sure to look that up too, to make sure you're keeping yourself safe out there.
That is wonderful, wonderful advice. And let people know the best way to find you out there on these interwebs.
So our Instagram is Black Girls Trekkin, which I think we're most audible on. We also have our website, www.blackgirlstrekkin.com. If you do go to either our website or our Instagram, you can join our email list. And like I said, I send a monthly newsletter out every month just to kind of update everyone on what's happening. So hopefully pretty soon we will be able to start our hikes again. But again, safety first. So we'll wait until the world is ready to open to start letting people come to hikes again.
Awesome. And I'll have those links to where you can find them on Instagram as well as their website down in the show notes so people can find out more about you and how to join. Thank you so much, Tiffany and Michelle. One, for the work that you're doing in the space, and then two, for being here and being guests. I'm so grateful that I got a chance to speak to both of you.
Yeah,
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, make sure you subscribe to the Outdoorsy Diva podcast. Be sure to check out Misadventures of an Outdoorsy Diva blog on outdoorsydiva.com. You can also keep up with me and my adventures, so check out all of my social channels. Find Outdoorsy Diva on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest.